What's going on, everyone? I am your host, Tremel Thompson. Happy holidays. I hope you guys, if you celebrate, I hope you guys had a Merry Christmas. Um, I am the host, Tremel Thompson. We're going to have a special interview today. Special interview today from a thread that happened 2 days ago. It was a Mapstoa thread, and it seemed as if Mapstoa have an issue with TA leadership. So today's guest, today's guest um, is going to be Terrance Layne. He is a Mapstoa operator. He's also, I would say, a Stand United supporter. And I think that is very important that, we have this conversation because he's saying some things that I don't know if it's divisive or I don't really know. And we're going to figure it out today. So I'm just waiting for him to get on. And once he gets on, Terrance, when you get on, just request to be in the live video and we're going to start because you were saying some impactful things. And I think that we need to have this conversation in front of the members. So yeah, so until Terrance come on, I need you guys to share out this live. Please share out the live. Let me see. Let me get it started myself. Share out the live. Let me get him on. Let me see where he at. How were you guys' holiday? How was the holiday? Let me see. Let me text him. Let me text him. Let me get look. This is gonna be an important. Y'all not going to miss this interview right here. As soon as he come on, we're going to get it going. We're going to get it going as soon as he come on. Terrance, as soon as you come on, just request to be in the live. This is an important live right here, people. Important interview. It's like I don't want to put it that way, but they made it seem like Mapstoa against TA. And I just want to get clarity as to what's the mind frame in Mapstoa and what problem do they have with TA leadership. This is very important. You guys don't understand how important this live is, man. This is going to be a very important live. Let me see where he at. Let me call him real quick. Let me call him. I'm going to call him, get him on. Are you watching the live? You should go to, it should be a button at the bottom with like two people, like two people emojis. And you could just request to be on because I don't see you. Or you got to do it from your phone. So do it from your phone. All right. So yeah, we waiting for him to come on. As soon as he come on, we go get it. We go get it cracking. We go get it cracking. Oh, so I want to touch on something real quick. As you guys know, there's a re-election going on in TA Surface, and the ballot should be going out January 3rd. And I'm very disappointed in the TA Surface reps. They are out there actually promoting arrest and people getting arrested for some alleged fraud that didn't take place. I don't care what nobody say. I don't care what the neutral monitor say. I don't care what anyone. Oh, Terrance is on. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it. Mr. Layne, happy holidays.
Yes, same to you, brother.
Hold on. I don't know why I don't hear you. I don't know why I can't hear you. Hold on. I don't know why I can't hear you. Can y'all hear him? Talk, Terrance. Talk.
Yeah, can y'all hear me?
If y'all hear Terrance, put
Yeah,
your
I'm
thumbs up
talking.
because I can't hear him.
Can-
I want to make sure that they all right, they hear you. I can't hear you. Hold on one second. Hold on one second. Can I hear you? Let me see. Talk.
Can you hear me now?
There you go. I hear you now, brother. I hear you now.
All right.
I hear you now. How you doing? How was your holiday?
It was good, brother. How was yours?
Mine was good. Mine was good. Mine was good. Mine was good. So look, you said I was paying for everybody who's not knowing what's going on here. Mr. Layne was in a group called TA Mabstoa United, and it seemed like he has a problem with TA surface leadership. So I'm gonna read a quote from one of your posts in which you said you want to come from the outside and represent the OA. Tell me how and what you're going to do for the OA, not the union as a whole, but the OA. I
Mm-hmm.
must be convinced. Then we can talk. So you was
Yes.
talking about people who
Right.
represent TA, correct?
I'm talking about TA members who wish to become elected officers in OA depots.
All right. And to be specific, we was talking about Michael Enriquez and Danny Cruz and people on 18, correct?
Well, yes, Michael Enriquez had started the Post with an article, and I sort of took umbrage with the tone of the article that critiqued the Mabstoa uh, leadership and particularly past chairman, and implied that uh, that the chairman corrupted the process of leadership because we assigned the overtime and the pick rights that we have in some of the particular aspects and facets of Mabstoa that are unique to Mabstoa and have been as opposed to TA Surface. And so my response to that, which I took as a critique and a negative critique of Mabstoa leadership, was that if you want to be a TA member who is in a consolidated and work, or not consolidated, an incumbent, but work as an OA representative, that you would have to have an OA mindset that, based on past and historical reasons, given what we felt has been a stepchild treatment of the OA by leaders in the past, we would have to be sure that anyone who is of TA ilk and wants to represent in the OA understands not only the contractual aspects of Mabstoa, but understands past practices, current practices, and in all the Mabstoa algorithm. Because we cannot take a chance on someone who doesn't suffer the same challenges and has suffered some of the injuries of a past contract in particular. We cannot take a chance on someone who is coming in with that mindset leading us, because it could be catastrophic for Mabstoa.
Now, all right. So what things Mabstoa lost that you call catastrophic throughout throughout the years?
Well,
Since you've
wouldn't
been
go as
in the job.
far as this. Okay. Right. So I started in 1999, and and in 2002, we got a contract that we believe for the union, for the local, that was leveraged or paid for at the sacrifice of Mabstoa, to some degree the Department of Buses, but particularly Mabstoa in terms of some of the things that we had, some of the practice that we had up until that time. Our injury on duty time was cut. Our assault on duty time was cut from 40, it was cut in half. Things that we have were standardized to the TA level. Um, and in return, we didn't receive anything to compensate for those losses. Considering the fact that we are not civil servants, considering the fact that I cannot promote to a title as the rest of the people, as the rest of our members in the local can, considering the fact that when I become demoted, for whatever reason, I am not permitted to demote to any other title than a Mabstoa caretaker, where somebody in TA surface has other options. I can't go from OA to stations. In addition to that, the Mabstoa pension, because Mabstoa is statutory and not civil service, right? We have to ensure that someone sitting on that pension board, the Mabstoa pension board, understands the particularities and understands the vulnerability of Mabstoa. As Brother Toussaint enlightened me that when he came on board, our pension had been underfunded, right? Was in effect a Ponzi scheme. And because management had not funded it properly, and he was the one that helped to correct that situation, for which we are indebted to him. However, we discovered after that contract that there were things that we had and we lost that we have never recovered and have never been compensated for. So there was injury, material injury. And in order to prevent that, tribalism aside, in order to prevent that, I would be far more comfortable with the TA representative that is not interested in leadership just by showing me the shortcomings of past leadership. What I need is a diagram and an understanding that you have an understanding of what it would take to leave Mabstoa, given its very particular status in Local 100. Being the only division that is not covered by civil service and is not insulated from some of the things that everyone else is, someone leading in our division needs to be have a complete understanding of that and needs to be mindful and sensitive, not only to our vulnerabilities, but to our past grievances.
All right. So a lot of the things that you mentioned pension, you mentioned the assault going from 4 to 2 years. You didn't mention this, but I know about this also. Probation used to be 6 months and it ended up being 1 year once you consolidated with TA,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
I'm looking at those things, those items that you're discussing. Those are mostly main table items. Those are not departmental items, right? So when you look at the pension, I mean, that's legislative. That's a main table thing, right? You look at
Right.
the assault going from 4 years to 2 years. That's a main table thing, right? So when we talking about regular officers, what departmental stuff did you guys lose that it's so urgent that a red light, or you would put people through a gauntlet if they came from TA and wanted to represent from people in Mabstoa?
That's a legitimate question. So on contractually speaking, I can't off the top of my head cite anything that we've lost in the following MOUs with regards to Mabstoa in an effort to be standardized, to be standardized with TA surface. However, what there has been a steady and consistent erosion of the Mabstoa culture. Our pick rights, which was the crown jewel of Mabstoa. One of those things that we had, because we don't have parity with the rest of the local on certain things, one of the things, it was one of those particular items that we had and enjoyed in order to somewhat compensate for the status that we don't have and the protection that we don't have, not being a part of NYSERS and such. And there's been a slow, steady erosion of those things for the past 10, 15 years. And it always starts off small. You know, we had 2 pick cars in the Bronx, and then they tell us, well, you know, you just get 1 pick car. And now, you know, we had pick cars in Manhattan, and, you know, in order to accommodate the pick, and now they're telling us that, no, you know, there's no pick cars. And now, you know, there's just little things that they keep taking in order to dismantle and weaken us.
Well, let me stop you right there.
And so, by my way of thinking,
let me stop you right there. Okay, so when you talk about the pick rights, now let's make this clear. Is there any officer right now in Mabstoa that is TA?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, so you talking about the erosion of pick rights that is seen by OA people.
Right.
But this
Right.
is happening under OA
That's
members,
right.
not TA reps elected in OA. This is happening by OA reps, OA members or drivers elected in OA, right? So that's why I had a
Mm-hmm.
problem
Yeah.
with what you were saying, because you wasn't being fair to the guys who from TA and want to represent OA. Like, you're speaking of negativity, the erosion of the pick
Mm-hmm.
rights, a slow erosion, which is something serious, right? At the least,
Right.
that's supposed to be protected. And this is happening up under OA leadership.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you hold those guys
Yes.
accountable for the slow erosion of the pick rights?
Well, you're right. That's where it starts. So as a member of, as an officer, as a member of the officer class, right, I would be the first to say that if we have not been able to maintain, and to some degree technology has been our enemy with that regard, but if we have not been able to maintain the line of demarcation against management with regards to keeping them from breaking off bits and pieces of our rights and traditions, then that's on us. And perhaps we need to it's not perhaps, we need to do better. We need to make sure that we are prioritizing in a way that allows us to preserve our culture and preserve Mabstoa as an entity and keep it intact to the degree that we can. Technologies in some ways will infringe upon that, but no, you cannot blame anybody else for what has been lost in Mabstoa. If we have not been as vigilant or as successful as we need to be in keeping these things off, keeping that encroachment away, then that's on us. The reason why, and I would be very honest, the reason why I hold the TA brothers to a different standard, and it's not, excuse me, it's not a question of their leadership ability. It's just that when someone wants to lead, my prerequisite is that you have more than just a knowledge of the shortcomings of the preceding leadership. You must also come with a plan. There must also be a sensitivity to the needs and grievances of the people that you desire to lead. There must be an investment in how we feel in our perspective. So to negate my perspective because I'm a dinosaur, as I've been called, or an incumbent, really doesn't invest a lot of confidence in me, or I can't invest in you knowing that my perspective is being negated simply because it's one that you don't share. And there are instances where, okay, so there is an instance where TA leader, a TA member, where I can illustrate this by giving you an example of why a TA member who wants to lead in Mabstoa really has to be on point. And it goes without saying that a
Yeah,
Mabstoa member should
but hold on. But don't any rep, no matter from TA, OA, MTA bus, they should be on point. Period. Right. So
be.
we just had an election.
You're
We
right.
just had an election.
Right.
Did you run in this past election?
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes, I did. I was reelected or renominated without opposition to another term as the chief shop steward of Manhattanville.
Okay. So once again, I'm gonna go back to that comment that you said. You must be convinced that when someone is from TA trying to run an
Yes.
OA, that you must be convinced that they have OA in their best interest. What conviction, or how were you
Yes.
convinced this prior election that with the team that you ran with have OA in the best interest? Because once again, we talking about erosion. When something slowly erodes, is being diminished. We're not winning
Mm-hmm.
nothing if it's being eroded.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
you supported a crew,
That's right.
that obviously didn't convince you on what needs to be done in OA.
Well, I'm not going to say that they didn't convince me on what needs to be done. I'm just going to say on the erosion of pick rights, right, which has been an ongoing thing for years. We have not been successful in keeping that line or holding the line in that regard to the degree that maybe we could have. We have had
So why
other
is that?
priorities. There
Why
have
is
been
that?
other situations that
Why
we've
is
had to
that?
deal with.
Why is that?
Because maintaining um, the solvency of a division is not always a very simple thing. There are often competing and there are often competing entities or forces that could cause us to prioritize in a way that inevitably we will incur some losses or incur some erosion. And we don't win. A lot of these things have been lost. Some of these things have been lost through arbitration. So that being what it is, sometimes you just come to a point where you just take a loss. But
I mean,
sometimes you need to
wait,
press harder.
hold up, because that you said something very important there, which I didn't know, was that a lot of the
Mhm.
stuff with the pick rights, according to you, was lost in arbitration, right? So once you lose something,
I would say a lot of it. There have been some
okay,
things,
so
some items that have been lost.
all right, so when you lose in arbitration, that's hard to get overturned. Where is the
Mhm.
forward sight before going to arbitration?
Yes.
Before going to arbitration and step one to step two to say, hey, look, we don't have a chance here. We can't afford it to go to arbitration, because once something go to arbitration that's departmental, it affects everyone. It's not like
Mhm.
we're going to take you
That's
you
right.
got into an accident and we're going to take it to arbitration because we felt that you was right. But we talking about pick rights. Once it go to arbitration, that's
Right.
basically it. It's hard to get a
Mhm.
arbitrated decision overturned, right? So where's the foresight of to say, look, this is not a good plan, or why isn't there brainstorming amongst other members? Because I don't believe that the brainchilds is the elected reps, not all of them. I believe that you wasn't elected for a while. I think that you have a level of intelligence to you, right? So for something as big as um, losing out on pick rights, what what actually went into play before they went into the game to say, look, we go take this to arbitration? Because they had a chance to back out before arbitration to put up a better fight, or try to re-strategize or something.
Mhm.
That's big. That's big, Terrance.
It is big, but and so from my perch on the branch, because I will admit that I have not been in the room when some of these conversations have been held.
Why
I've
not?
been informed probably
Why
more
not?
than the average member
Why not?
because because of the hierarchy. And there are executive leadership, there's division leadership, then there's depot leadership. I'm a member of the
That's what's
depot
wrong.
leadership,
That's what's wrong.
and I'm not
That's what's wrong with this
always
union. That's what's wrong with this union. You that said it right there, Terrance. There's no such thing as
okay.
hierarchy when it comes to intelligence, right? There shouldn't be, say, oh, I'm executive
Okay.
leadership. You're a bus operator. I cannot listen to you, right? That's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you could have came up with
Yes.
something that could have made them win the arbitration. And just because you depot level leadership,
Perhaps.
they not going to listen to you. That's the essence of what's wrong with this union, Terrance. I'm glad that you said that. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I agree that the very essence of unionism is egalitarianism, where everybody should have a say. However, we cannot negate the memberships. The member at large also has a responsibility to participate. So every month we have a division meeting. And for the last 3 years, I've been encouraging at least the members of Manhattanville, make your division meeting, because that is the only time that you can go on the record with your thoughts, your grievances, your opinions. It is recorded, there were minutes taken, and you can be on the record. And most importantly, no one can ever say that the issue wasn't raised.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the member's responsibility. And when the member forfeits their responsibility, you're forfeiting your power. It's the same as having somebody or opening up a business, giving it to someone to manage, and you never go back and check what those managers are doing. you are thereby relinquishing your right to have a successful business and relinquishing your right to really weigh in or critique the efforts of the manager when you have not been coming back to your business to check in on what's happening. And to the degree that our membership has not been proactive in making sure that their business is run right, we all have to accept some level of responsibility. To go back to your question about arbitration and having the foresight or wisdom to know that there are some things that you probably shouldn't go to. And I think when we have the opportunity to exercise that discretion, we do. However, some things are we don't have that discretion because the fight is brought to us. So when management makes an incursion on our rights, contractually or a practice that we have, and we fight it and we cannot work or negotiate it with the management off the table, so to speak, at some point when they force our hand, we have to go to an arbitrator. Because the management is going to try to impose the rule change or the contractual change or whatever it is that they're going after. They're going to try to do that, right, without our permission. We have to fight it. When you can't get them to back down through negotiation, then you have to go to arbitration. Sometimes we win. Many times we win. Sometimes we don't. And so that is just the nature of the game. And to the degree that I don't think anybody, I would hope, no one in their right mind is going to take an issue to arbitration that is not well thought out, strategized, and has a very good chance of winning.
I think that you can go in there with that mindset. If you think that you surrounding yourself with the smartest people in the room,
Mm-hmm.
you probably could. They probably think they waged a fight that they thought would hold up, and it wouldn't because they didn't go outside and seek advice from people who they felt was lower than them. But you brought up the situation of getting members involved and being at union meetings and getting their comments and concerns on the record. And I seen that you posted something about the same thing inside that group about the leadership. I mean, not the leadership, the members not participating. Why do you think that is? Because a lot of people like to blame the
Yes.
members, but I think that if the members are not inspired by the leadership, you will get the result that we have now. Now, how do I think you said that you feel that they're not as militant as you would like them to be, right? Now, when you speak of militancy,
No, they're not.
who isn't militant? Who isn't? Who isn't?
Okay, so anytime that you look at the ethos or culture of an organization, you have to look at the top because the top is responsible for setting the tone. Agree or disagree?
Facts.
Right? So the reality is that we have gone from being what is called a organizing model of unionism to a service model. So organizing model is where the members are constantly kept informed, they're constantly motivated, they're constantly kept energized. There's a level of, I wouldn't say aggression, but a level of militancy among the rank and file that is inspired by leadership in order to keep the union moving forward and to keep us gaining rather than losing. We've gone to a service model, and while there is something to be said for the service model of unionism, in my opinion, and in particular for this local, while it may have allowed us to avert some of the conflict that we were known for in the Toussaint era, right? I don't think that it is the way we need to go now. And I think that a reversal of that philosophy needs to take place at once. And I think that we have gone into that service model, under the leadership who believed that they were best able to acquire for this local the things that we needed, and I guess the gains that we would be content with, and that they would be able to procure those for us without us actively getting out on the streets, 15,000 of us, and clogging up Midtown like we used to.
Hold on 1 second, because you are great at going around a question. Who's responsible for this
Okay.
service model that you're talking about? Who's responsible?
I, I believe the service model leadership started with the Samuelson presidency. I think it has continued through the Yatano presidency.
All right. So now I want to
Yes.
take it back to why we started having this conversation. When you hold in divisional officers or potential divisional officers to a higher standard than the people you that's named, the Samuelson and the Utanos, because the things that you claimed that you lost or you did lose, I'm not gonna say claim that Mabstoa did lose
Mm-hmm.
was main table items. So how can you support a president that don't support your division? Because Michael and Danny aren't your enemies because they have no power. But you ran up under a
Right.
president.
No,
You ran up under
okay.
a president, a TA president, who haven't convinced you that he has Mapstoa in the best interest. Make that make sense for me.
Okay, because my preoccupation was with Mabstoa, particularly Manhattanville Depot and Mabstoa Division One. And I have always been honest about my leadership. And I have never minced my words by saying that I have never been entirely in agreement with every decision that the leadership of this union makes on an executive or even a division level. I don't always agree. I balance my support based upon what I think is going to be best for us going forward and the prospects of changing something and maybe casting us into a worse situation. So the
Well, let me ask
reality
you
is
this.
that while I may not be in agreement with, okay,
Let me ask you this. How did Utano convince you that he has Mapstoa best interest?
I wasn't convinced by Matt Snow, President Yatano. I was convinced by my vice president, Richard Davis,
Once
that
again, once
irrespective
again. Well,
of
no, no,
whether
no,
or
no, no,
not
no, no.
Yatano,
No, 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 no. You wrote the other day that Michael and Danny, whoever's from TA, have to convince you, not a proxy to convince you. They have
right.
to convince you. Tony Utano is a TA worker, a civil servant. How did Tony Utano
Yes.
convince you, Terrance Layne, that he has OA best interest?
Okay. The way he convinced me was in May of this year when we began to launch the workplace violence initiative, the workplace violence campaign in the OA. It was a campaign that was written by myself with the assistance of stewards Danny Cruz, LaShonda Wilson, and Millie Puello. And I brought this up the chain to Richard Davis, who totally endorsed it, and then went to the president in order to get the wherewithal, or I guess the permission, to launch it because it was a militant campaign. President
Hold on,
Yutano himself came to the
wait.
depot, had
No,
a
no, 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 no,
conversation with
no.
me.
I can't let you continue like this, Terrence.
You're
We was
asking me a
talking
question.
about items. I know, but we was talking about items that were specific to OA, right? Workplace violence is union wide,
Mhm.
right? We was talking about items that were specific to OA. Remember, you started off this show running down things specific to OA about things that you guys lost, right? And the whole conversation with
Okay.
Michael and Danny was about things that were specific to OA, not things that could happen in TA or MTA bus or big bus or wherever the private lines, wherever it may be at. What
Right.
things that's specific to
Right.
OA that Tony Utano convinced you on for his support?
Well, I'm telling you, while workplace violence isn't limited to the OA, as far as I was concerned, the OA was where I was taking the stand against it. And he definitely got on board, endorsed it, and put his might behind it. He encouraged it. There was no obstruction. There was no hemming and hawing. There was anything. He came to the depot himself. We had a conversation. I laid out for him what the agenda and what the plan was. We had several meetings about it. Unfortunately, there's not extend to the other operating personnel, like TA service and Mabstoa buses, but we started local because this was something that I knew in Manhattan and the Bronx was a pressing problem. And he was definitely a man who came and supported our efforts to relieve the distress and the duress that we're suffering as operating personnel in Mabstoa. So that was one of the things that convinced me that this was some leadership is someone that I could support in this last election. Because remember, I'm elected to represent the members of Manhattanville Depot and by extension Division 1. While I don't, while I want what's best for all my brothers, at the end of the day, it has to start with where I'm actually, by the members who I'm actually elected to represent. And when he came to the depot, there was a meeting at the Union Hall, there was a meeting up in the Bronx, and there was a meeting at the depot that I had with him 3 times. And we discussed this. I laid out to him what it was, and he said,
all right. What did Tony Utano do to help you guys' pension situation? Or did he do anything? And just a yes or no. Did he do?
I'm not.
Huh? Did he do anything to help the pension situation in Maps? Did he do any? Did Utano do anything to help the pension situation in Mabstoa?
Well, as a matter of fact, yes. So in 2020, there was an issue with.
No, okay, I'm listening.
I can answer the question.
I'm listening. Yeah, I'm listening.
So in 2020, there was an issue with the Mabstoa pension. Yeah, there was an issue with the Mabstoa pension, and one of the caretakers or administrators of the pension, there was found to be some discrepancies with regards to how they had managed it. I am personally aware that the president did interact on our behalf with the vice president of Mabstoa to, I believe, have that manager or that administration removed, and that they also had to make recompense for the losses that the pension sustained based upon their mismanagement. So yes, I'm aware that he has acted on the behalf of Mabstoa with regards to the Mabstoa pension. And this is all documented. This is news. So yeah.
All right. Tony Utano pulled that same stunt with Tier 6 a couple of months ago, ironically right before the election. But Tony Utano sit on the board for NICES. You know that? I know you guys not NICES, but you know he sit on a pension board.
No, I wouldn't.
Right? And then not to mention,
yeah,
isn't Utano's job to protect your pension? Isn't it his job to make sure that we are safe at work from workplace violence? So why are you patting him on his head for someone who's supposed to do their job?
Yes, it is.
Right? If your mechanic is supposed to fix your car,
I'm not.
If your mechanic is supposed to fix your car, right? That's his job. If the union president is supposed to make sure that we are safe on the job, to make sure that we're safe with workplace violence, to make sure our pensions is not messed up, right? To make sure that our pick rights aren't violated, isn't that his job?
Right.
Right.
Yes, it is.
So, okay.
That overall, he is the responsible buck stop.
Okay, so now we went through a host of things that you guys lost. You guys, I think you said something about you would give back the 7 sick days that you have, go back to 5 sick days to not accrue, to not have sick leave control list. That was correct?
Yes.
That's correct.
Yes, I would.
That was correct. So where do Utano stand?
But let me add on. I'm not sure where he stands on the issue of the contract that happened in 2002, particularly pertaining to the sick days or the increase in sick days, because I've never had a conversation with him about that. But allow me to respond to what you said about leadership and its responsibility to the membership and to make sure that they have the things that they need. That is absolutely correct. Ultimately, the buck stops with the leader. The guy at the top is the one that ultimately has to answer for whatever happens in his administration. That being said, the reason why we have a tier of officers that comes from the president all the way to someone like myself in the depot is because I'm on the ground. I still operate buses 5 days a week unless otherwise called to do something. And I am acutely aware of what's happening on the ground with the member, that a president or an officer who is not at his tools in my division may not have the experience or knowledge to know. So it is my responsibility to communicate those issues to that person or to the people upline, to the leadership, so that they can effectively deal with it. When I do that, it is then their responsibility to either come up with a plan or at least poll me and find out what my plan is, and then support me in the way that I need to be in order to correct the situation. That's how it goes. So I'm not expecting anybody from any division, or I'm not expecting anybody from the executive four, from the top four, to come and ride a bus with me and see what's going on. But what I am expecting is that when I tell you that there's a problem and that we need to address it, and I expect your support, and I expect not to be dismissed. My responsibility as an elected officer is to not just come with the problem, Tramel, but it is also to have a plan. It is also to sit back, analyze what can be done, come up with a plausible solution, right, and then present it. That's part of my responsibility. I have no problem with Michael Enriquez or Danny Cruz. I think they're intelligent, able men. I have worked with Danny Cruz, and I have been inspired at some points by his industriousness, his resourcefulness, and his tenacity. I got nothing but respect for that brother. My caveat is, if you're going to lead in the OA, then you got to have an OA state of mind, because OA is not like the rest of the local. OA has peculiarities and vulnerabilities and challenges and issues that, while they may not directly affect that TA member, right, they have to be taken as important as they would be if the TA member himself or herself was directly impacted. And part of what I would require from a TA member to take upon that position is not only the knowledge of past grievances of the OA, but a plan. And I have been consistent in that thread by saying that, show me your plan. You want to tell me what wasn't right, who didn't do this, and all that, fine. But show me what's your plan, what's your vision for the OA? What's your plan for the OA? Because a leader can come into the OA and, without a full understanding of some of the intricacies and nuances of our division, may make that mistake of taking something to the arbitrator and cost the entire division. And now, I'm not saying that that can't happen with an OA rep. I'm pretty sure it probably has. But with the TA member who doesn't share the loss, and that's important, with a TA member who's not going to feel the pain of the loss, it is important that I know that you are as invested in making sure that my future is solvent and secure as you are your own. And the best way
Terrance,
to do that is to tell me your
Terrance,
plan.
you're creating a boogeyman. I asked you earlier in this interview, name
Okay.
one TA rep that sold you guys out in OA. Has it happened?
Okay, so you got me. You got me.
All right.
No, I'm not aware of that.
So,
and I'm going to be honest.
So
I'm
all right,
honest.
all right. You
I'm going to be honest.
creating a book.
Incumbent member. I wouldn't say I'm creating a boogeyman, but what I am saying is that I am an incumbent member who is still sore from the contract of a couple of decades ago, where we experienced the loss, and where we have never regained and never recovered, no matter what the administration was. And so I'm wary. So maybe the language that I used when I initially came out in that post was a little strong, and I certainly don't want to create divisiveness in the boogeyman. But I am very guarded when it comes to the OA. And I think, given some of the things that have happened and some of the losses that we have incurred, I think a member who wants to lead in the OA, a TA member that wants to lead in the OA, has to demonstrate a sensitivity to that.
Well, once again,
I think that's only fair.
you talking the boogeyman stuff. You acting like a TA member sold you out in '08 before. A '08 member sold you out in '08.
No,
So shouldn't you be more hard?
okay,
And you
well,
keep saying that you're guarded. You're not guarded. You're being biased because with the people who
okay,
have the ability and
right.
you're being biased. The things that was eroded that you keep talking about happened under OA reps, not under TA reps. And it continues to
It happened
happen.
under
Hmm?
it happens under OA reps, but like we said, whatever happens ultimately in the local ultimately has to go up to the top. And we have had
Right.
TA leadership for the past 18 years. And so the reality is that I don't expect, and it is clear to me that someone from MOW may not understand from an empirical place the pain of the OA. And so
Oh, well,
maybe
let me
it's
stop.
not right
Let,
for me
let
to
me stop. Let me
transfer.
stop. Let me stop you right there. I got to stop you right there. You said 18 years it been up under TA leadership at the top, right? Before, all right. So you talking about from Roger?
Yes,
What division is Willie James from?
yes.
What division is Willie James from?
He was an OA. He was the OA.
And what did he
He
do
was
to
OA.
y'all pension? What did he do to y'all pension?
Well, if you're, I don't know what he did to our pension, but if Brother Tassan is saying that the pension was underfunded under his watch, then I'm assuming that he was not vigilant when it came to that particular item. I mean,
So
two plus two plus makes
it
four.
seems like
So
it seems historically it seems historically that '08 a lot of the erosion, a lot of the selling out is happening up under '08 reps, whether they at the top or they at the divisional level. You said for the
well,
past 10
I
years
don't know if the
that
erosion,
there
well, the
has
erosion
been
wasn't
you,
happening.
hold up. You said for the past 10 years there has been an erosion for your pick rights.
Mm-hmm.
That happened under '08
Yes,
reps. That's
yes,
very important.
yes,
Um, the pension was
yes.
underfunded under Willie James. That's very important. It's very
Okay,
important, right?
okay,
Now, another thing, the
okay,
things that you guys did lose, from the 4 years assault to the 2 years, the 6 months probation to 1 year, and a host of other things. That didn't happen unilaterally.
mm-hmm.
The members voted on that, right? And in order for members to vote on that, there had to
Yes,
be some OA reps that went out there and said that this is what's best for us. So we should vote on that. So it seems
yes.
like OA
Okay.
is OA worst enemy.
I think that ignorance is any member's worst enemy. And I think that if we voted on something that inevitably we found to be to our detriment, that we as members have to take responsibility. And I'm not ever going to assign perfection to any leadership, regardless of who they are. And as I stated earlier, I don't always agree with the decisions that leadership makes, whether it's division, departmental, or executive. I'm not always in agreement with it. The one thing that I will do is I will speak up, right? And I will become active in order to help my department or help my division maintain its solvency, which is very important to me. So while we can critique the actions of past leadership, OA, TA, there's plenty of blame to go around for whatever current conditions exist. Going forward, when a leader wants to be a leader, I can't come to anybody and say, I'm going to be your leader until I'm willing to sit and listen to your grievances, your fears, valid or not, right? Your concerns, right? And your desires. I just can't anoint myself to be qualified for leadership until I have a better understanding of what it is that you need, what it is that you want, and what it is that you fear. I fear losing anything more in the OA. I don't care who's the leader. What I fear is losing anything in OA, and it just makes sense to me, and maybe I'm wrong, but it makes sense to me that if someone is leading me, but yet not vulnerable or susceptible to the losses and the pain that I may be, simply because they have a different status. At the very minimum, I must be ensured by that member that you understand that while you may not get jammed up, while your pension may not be at risk, while you don't have you don't come from a place where they had the pick rights that Mabstoa has, so that may not have been importance to you. What I need to understand is that you understand how important that is to me. And when you convince me that you understand, hey, Terrance, I understand, listen, that ain't been my situation, but I understand yours, and I want to make sure that you're protected. And the best way you could do that, Tremel, is tell me your plan. Don't tell me about what they did in the past. We can't undo that. Tell me about what you're going to do. Make me feel comfortable, right, with your vision. Let me know that you have an understanding of what it is that I need. And then we can have a conversation, because let's be frank, with the incumbency growing smaller and smaller every year and consolidated lists growing bigger, right, it's inevitable, in my opinion.
But
it's inevitable.
See, and I agree with you on your points there, but you didn't require that same type of attention from Utano or Samuelson. You didn't require, because
as a matter of fact,
let's say, let's say Mikey, let's say Mikey was running for chief. Let's say Mikey was running for chief line steward, or running for third vice chair in the depot. How is he a threat to the depot, or who's more of a threat, the president or the third vice chair to OA?
That depends. That depends on what the issue is.
Are you?
I couldn't catch.
No. Once again, no. See, you're great. You're great at talking around the questions. Everything that you mentioned was main table stuff, right? Was main table stuff, and you talk about this hierarchy. You talk about this hierarchy, right?
Right.
So a third vice chair is depot leadership, right? Is depot leadership. If you want to call it.
That's division leadership.
All right. Third vice chair in the division, right?
Right.
He still won't be involved in those higher talks. Third vice chair? You said there's a hierarchy.
Actually, in the third, actually a division vice chair would be involved more so in those talks than the depot rep.
So a third vice chair.
Let me give you an example.
Wait, I just want to ask this question. A third vice chair could cause harm to a division, which means that what could the second vice chair, the first vice chair, and the divisional chair would allow a third vice chair to cause harm to a division?
If they're not able to handle the issue, if the issue is falling to the third vice chair because of succession, and the division chair and the first and second vice chair are not able to handle it, so it goes to the third vice chair. And if the third vice chair screws it up,
see, we talking about important stuff, Terrance.
Why would they?
We talking about important stuff. You think that Donald Yates would let an important item go past him to go to a second and third vice chair? The things that you worried about may destroy Mabstoa?
I don't think he would purposefully let anything go to anybody that needed his particular attention. But sometimes people are not available. Sometimes people get hurt. Sometimes people are hospitalized. Sometimes people are sick. Sometimes people are away. And therefore, sometimes some issues can get past the leader and go to a subordinate officer, for lack of a better term, in order to be dealt with. Or it could be a matter of a subordinate officer being assigned a task and maybe not getting it right. There could be consequences, right, that could be to the detriment of not just the person or the issue, but to the division as a whole. So there has to be a vigilance and an understanding of the culture and of the practices. And this doesn't just go for the OA, Tremel. It goes for every department. I can't go into CED and assume, because I'm a union officer, that I can go in there and represent them at the level that they need to be, because I am not educated and informed as to the particular concepts and aspects of CED that I would need to be in order to be an effective leader. I'm not saying that it would be impossible.
No. There you go. You creating a boogeyman situation again. We talking about Michael Enriquez, Danny Cruz. I think they have proved that they know the issues
Okay.
inside Mabstoa. They know the issues in Mabstoa. You creating a boogeyman situation, saying that, well, they could come and destroy us and go back to TA and be good there. So with that being said, are you against consolidation? If you
I
had
don't
the
think I understand.
opportunity to undo if you had the opportunity to undo consolidation, would you do it?
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't do it.
Why
I
not?
wouldn't undo it.
Why not? Why not?
Because consolidation gave the member who was living far. Hmm? Consolidation gave the member who was living far away an ability to shorten their commute, and it created an ease of commute for the member at large. So no, I would not oppose that any more than I opposed the 126 seniority integration into the OA seniority list, even though I lost 2 to 3 years behind that. But I understood that we had an obligation to look out for our brothers in 126 who are now about to be homeless. And so, there is sacrifice involved. But if I'm going to make sacrifice, let it be on terms that I can swallow and with my knowledge. I don't want it forced on me, and I don't want it to be at the expense of my well-being because somebody else maybe just didn't know enough. I think Michael Enriquez and Danny Cruz will make great leaders. But what I need for them to show me, and I'm not saying, oh, you just can't be a rep, no, that's not what I'm saying. So I want to be clear. What I'm saying is, what is your vision? What is your plan? You have to show me or the membership that you have a knowledge, an acute knowledge of the OA and what makes the OA the OA. Its algorithm, its practices, its contractual definitions. You have to show me that you have a really good knowledge of that, and that you are invested in protecting it. Then,
Once
as
again,
I've
Terrance,
said over the last
once
2
again,
days,
I
then we can have a
gotta.
conversation about leadership.
What is Utano plan for OA? He has the ability
What
to
is
hurt
Utano's plan
OA
for it?
more
None.
than Michael Enriquez.
I'm not aware.
Do you not
I'm
aware
not
of a
aware of
plan from Utano?
President Utano's plan.
You're not aware.
But I'm
So
not aware
that
of
once again,
Utano wanting to come and be a rep in the OA.
ho, Utano,
You're making an assumption.
wait. No. Utano is your rep in the OA because Utano don't need Richie Davis to sign off on anything. Utano could sign off on anything in OA, being
No.
that he's the president. You
Yeah,
agreeing
but
with that?
Utano is not aware to the degree that Richard Davis is of the needs of the OA. I can promise
He
you
don't
that.
need the he don't need to confer with Richie Davis. He's the president. If he want to give something away in OA, he has the
Absolutely,
ability to do that.
absolutely he does. Okay, so let me ask you a question.
Ask me a
Uh,
question, brother.
you have a house.
Yes.
You have a house, and you know this house through and through. And you have someone that wants to help you modernize or renovate the house, right? And they may be good at what they do. And they have a company and they renovate houses and they insure it and everything. Can they renovate that house without your input?
No, it's my house. It's my. I mean, that I see the metaphor you trying to make or the
Right,
analogy, but it's my house.
right.
But you want to know what? If the city come and say we need to tear up your lawn because we got to get to something here or that, you know what? I don't have no say no more, and that's equivalent to the president. The president could come in Mapstoa and say, "Look, I'm giving this away. I don't care what happens." Right? A third vice chair in the division can't do that. Right? The everything that you claimed that you
No,
guys lost
no.
were main table items. It was items that was negotiated with the president, right?
Mm-hmm.
The vice president didn't negotiate away
Right.
from 6 months probation to 1 year. The same way how our divisional officers did not go from 3 years to 5 years. That was a main table thing, right? That was a main table thing. That was Utano.
Right.
How did that hurt Mapstoa too? Right? That hurt Mapstoa, right? And I understand that a lot of Mabstoa bus
Did that
operators
happen
feel
under
like
Yatanu's watch?
they huh? You said what?
Did that happen under Yatanu's watch? The extension of the pay raise, did that happen under Yatanu or did it happen under Samuelson?
Happened
I
under
thought it happened under
Samuelson, right?
Samuelson.
Yeah, Sam. But look, nothing
Okay.
changed. They follow the same playbook, right? Um, uh, I understand Map Store feel like step kids in this whole local 100 thing. What about MTA bus? MTA bus still don't have sick
Mm-hmm.
days. MTA bus, they get paid for their
Mm-hmm.
swing time after 2.5 hours, right? They got to do 2.5 hours
Mm-hmm.
before they start getting paid for their swing time and things like that. So you guys think you guys got it bad. MTA bus is trying to at least get parity with Map Store, right? And that's not happening, right? So who is the
Yeah.
how in two? Think about this: 2021, you still don't have sick days.
Right.
Who's responsible for that? The vice president or the president of the union? The president of the union. He's responsible for that. He's responsible for not pushing hard enough to create parity for everyone else. Now, if he want to create parity, I don't know if you ever been in any type of negotiation before. It's a tug of war. It's a give and take thing for the most part, right? You give me something, I give you something. That's how most negotiations
Mm-hmm.
work. So if MTA bus wants sick days, they probably going to lose something, right? So what's more important, sick days or whatever they may lose? And that's how you gotta figure out what's what. Sometime you could come out as the winner if you implement certain things on the union side, but we don't pose no fight. Think about this. In the past decade, what fight did you see this union leadership ever put up to safeguard any of our um, things that we have? We've been losing the past 10 years. We've been losing. We have not stepped forward or moved forward as a union. Who's responsible for that? The president. Because you want to know why? What's the president plan? You never heard the president speak of a plan where he got what we think we should fight for the union, what we're trying to protect. What they do, they spin lies. They tell you that, yeah, we got raises that keep up with inflation and cost of living. That be a lie, right? And even if you do get a raise,
Mm-hmm.
that's even with cost of living of inflation, you're not moving forward. You're still behind because what about the years that we didn't get that, right? We are driving a bus and trains and cleaning
Mm-hmm.
in a city we can't afford to live in. Who fault is that? Your vice president,
Yes.
Richie Davis not responsible for that. Donald Yates not responsible for that. The president is, right? Now, I'm gonna be honest. When I seen you
Mm-hmm.
in this in that post talking, when I thought you said you don't want a TA leader or a TA whatever, I thought you was talking about JP when JP tried to make that run for president. So I get the there seems to be a lot of OA buses and TA surface. Why is it so divided between the two divisions when we all one union?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So there's, as Brother Toussaint said, a great degree of tribalism. And I would not be honest if I didn't tell you that I didn't suffer from a good degree of that myself. Um, I can be expedient when it comes to the OA. I am of the OA, and so I live and breathe OA. I believe that tribalism can be to the detriment of this union if we don't learn how to have conversations like this, get past our differences for a clearer understanding and vision of us going forward. I think the differences between this TAS and OA, aside from the contractual and legislative differences, the differences are created by maybe rivalry, maybe a lack of understanding and ignorance of each other's culture, if you will, and because we haven't become invested enough as the Department of Buses, right? Period. The Department of Buses, we have not been coalesced and become invested enough to move forward forcefully. because there's 5,000 members of Mabstoa. I'm not sure what the count is in TAS, but when we become invested as one, and after all, we're consolidated, and we can still have two vice presidents as long as we have two distinctly different statuses, civil service and non-civil service. Yes, we need a leader for each division, but we need to be moving forward together. And until we are able to do that, because once we do that, then we will become a force in this union that will compel cooperation from everybody. And we will set the example of how we, Local 100, need to move going forward. While I don't really like to get into discussions about what wasn't done and who didn't do, because the blame game can be circular, and we can get into that, and it doesn't lead to productive resolution. What I will say is that, again, going forward, I'd love to sit down with Brother Cruz, Brother Enriquez, or anyone else that is interested in leadership position in the OA and say, okay, you want to be a leader? Because when I wanted to be a leader in the OA, I had to let people know what my intentions was, what my plans were, what my ideas were. And I worked for 4 or 5 years as just a shop steward, an appointed steward, before I was elected. I had to prove myself. I didn't just come in and say, well, those guys ain't doing the right thing and vote for me. That's not the way it works. So I'm really not holding them to a greater standard than I would hold anybody else. What I'm saying is, because you're not OA and you don't have the same challenges that an OA member does, I need to know that you are aware, knowledgeable, and invested in making sure that the OA member is protected, even in situations where you may not be personally impacted. This is not a question of integrity or character. This is a question of knowledge and vision.
All right.
Show me your vision.
Show
me your knowledge. Show me your plan.
I'm gonna give you I'm gonna give you an example of knowledge and wisdom, and I'm gonna compare it to something that you did, right? So last year during the pandemic, Mikey and Danny Cruz decided to give the bus operators 6 feet. They actually created that chain thing. They did that first, right? You, on the other hand, was doing news articles telling people to come to work, right? So, and without foresight of
quite accurate. Go ahead.
That without having foresight of seeing how this could ravage our members, they was talking about protecting members, and you did a news interview talking about we're good, we could come to work, it's safe, they protecting us. What you think caused more harm, what Danny and Mikey did, or the news interview that you did?
Actually, I think Danny and Mikey were proactive and did a great job at setting a standard for the membership, a physical standard on our buses. I'm not sure who started that. I thought it started in the Bronx. But if they were part of that leadership, wonderful job. I did not make a video telling members to come to work and it's safe. I did an interview with Lester Holt on NBC News, who was doing a series about essential and frontline workers who were coming out and helping this society survive against this microbial killer, COVID-19. This was not a piece about what was going on with us in the management and so on and so forth. This was a piece about showing how the bus operator was a frontline worker, the lowly bus operator who's normally disregarded, looked at as a doormat, spat upon, assaulted, and abused, but how it's the bus operator in the time of need, when the society needed the most, that men and women like myself were stepping up and answering a call. And I have no regrets or misgivings for several reasons about coming to work. While I wasn't encouraging anybody else to do anything that they didn't feel safe, I did step up and answer the call, because I'm not just a bus operator, I'm a human being. And there are people out here that depended upon that service. By the time we were talking about shutting the service down, that was like closing the barn door after the horse has already galloped away. And I felt that I wanted to be a part of the solution. And as you know, I lost a parent March 31st to this disease. And that was a way of me processing and dealing with my grief. By not sitting and wallowing in grief, I decided to get go forward and be a part of the solution. In addition to that, there are people that needed to get back and forth to work that were essential workers in hospitals. There were people that needed to get to their treatment, dialysis, kidney dialysis, radiation treatments. They still needed the bus. In addition to that, there are people that are homebound, Tramel, that they cannot care for themselves. They couldn't feed themselves. They couldn't go to the bathroom. They couldn't administer their own medication, right? And they depended on the PCA and the home health attendants who cannot afford Uber, who don't have cars. They depended on the transportation system to get them to their destination. And I felt that it was essential that those of us who were willing and able get out there and make sure that those people were looked after, because in my opinion, to not do that, the death toll would have been exponentially high.
We lost 170 workers, right? Now,
yes,
I don't believe that you have foresight. I don't believe that you have foresight of the damage that you did by doing that interview, and I'm gonna explain to you how.
Okay.
All
right.
Management allowed those cameras on the property, correct?
Yes, they did.
So, do you think that management would have had okay the interview for you to do prior to you even doing it, where you were going to throw management under the bus and talking about how we were unsafe? You don't think that management used you as a pawn? Look, he likes to talk a lot. We're going to get someone who speaks good, who's convincing, because he's just not going to see what it is. If they ain't going to ask Tramel to do it, because Tramel going to go and say management got blood on their hands, management not protecting us, management not giving us masks, management not making sure we social distancing. Because if we get a Terrance Layne, if we get a Terrance Layne, he's not going to throw us up under the bus. He's safe. And he's going to encourage other bus operators to come to work because he's doing it with a smile. When the world is panicking, he's on camera smiling. We didn't even institute no protections for them. We don't have no real partitions. We don't have anything. We just go put this black man on camera where most of the membership here, it looked like you and I, right? We go put him out there. He's a nice guy. He speaks well. And he's not going to talk bad about us. You think that if you spoke bad about management during that time, that they would okay that interview?
Okay, so here's what you didn't know. And I have other officers who filmed the interview as I was giving it. Absolutely not. Management was not going to let me get out there and say anything that was going to disparage them. And in fact, after the interview, because I spoke mightily about Local 100, I spoke about the conditions that we were going through. Most of that was cut out of the interview. Now, I don't know if it was management's hand or it was Lester Holt and NBC that said that this is not the kind of interview that we wanted to put out there. My foresight, brother, was in letting the public know that when it came to stepping up and making sure that we were participating in the solution and the survival of others, that the people that you never look at twice, that you never give their proper due to, the people that are essential on a day without a pandemic, are still doing what's necessary, because we all have family members living in the city. We all have family members that are needful of the transportation system. We all have family members that were counting and relying on us to do our part. And I think that not showing up, not stepping up would have been as disastrous as the police or the well, let me put it this way. If hospital workers were working with plastic bags and makeshift masks to save lives, I didn't feel like I had a right to say, no, that's good. I'm good. I'm not going to help. But that's me. I didn't encourage anybody. You're kind of prevaricating, brother. I didn't encourage anybody to do anything. I told people what I'm doing. And if anybody feels like that's an example that they want to follow, then that's on them. But
you admitted they chopped
I wasn't
and screwed
corralling
your interview.
people.
You admitted that they chopped and screwed your interview. You admitted that they chopped and screwed your interview.
Yes, there was a lot of things edited out of the interview, and I never will know whether it was by management's hand or whether Lester Holt was saying, listen, I just want to profile bus operators that are stepping up, because he had a series called American Hero. And every week they profiled a different essential worker, the UPS guy, the mail person, the hospital worker, the pharmacy worker. They profiled everyone who during that time, while everybody else was sheltered in, they profiled those of us on the front line who were helping to keep some level of functionality in the country. And so it wasn't just Terrance Layne.
Where's our hazard pay? Where's our hazard pay?
You know what? And I'm glad you asked that. I'm glad you asked that. Because the fact that we're not having a conversation with the powers that be about hazard pay speaks as to the fact that we need to go back to an organizing model of a union. Because there's not sufficient fear to deny us. The fact that that's not on the table, that they're not responding to our calls for it, right? They've heard it. And we can't say President Utano hasn't called for it, because he has. But you know what's going to make them give it up? When they see 40,000 members ready to do what is necessary in order to make sure that our voices are heard and that our demands or we're getting what we justly deserve. So it's not just leadership all the time. It's leadership and membership. And the very idea of unionism is that we are all leaders. We all have a voice and we all must participate. And as much as I am scrutinizing the decision-making of my leader, I'm also talking to the member that didn't vote. 1 in 4, local-wide, really? What about the member that doesn't have time to go to a division meeting? Because, you know, I guess they're chasing the dollar. The member that doesn't want to stay informed.
No. The members are Terrance, the members are unmotivated. We spoke about this earlier. The members are not motivated to come to meetings, and it starts at the top. It starts at the executive leadership, right? We just spoke about hazard pay. I haven't heard Utano say anything publicly about hazard pay since January, when Chuck Schumer was like, it's going to come in the next big bill, the next big transportation bill, we're going to get hazard pay. The next big two transportation bills came, and we didn't get hazard pay. What is Utano plan for hazard pay? There was another interview by another bus operator, by Roberto Martinez. He did an interview on Business Insider, what contradicted or was in contrast to your interview that showed the concerns of the workers, that we are really under fire. The depots, look, this new Omarion, whatever the Omicron COVID is ravaging the depots again. It's ravaging the depots again.
Yes.
Right? The cleaning tricks is gone. On the swing the buses that y'all taking from the field, there's no COVID cleaning going on over there, right? Our locker rooms and swing rooms are not being cleaned as they should. Are you going to do another interview in favor of manager to say, hey, the Omicron is back? I'm a proud bus operator, and we need to come to work to get these essential workers back to work, even though we lost 170 people. You would do the same interview again?
Okay. I would not do an interview unless I had more control over the final edit. That's number one. Number two, let's talk about what I have done.
All right, let's talk about it.
I would not do another interview without more control over the final edit. Right? Fool me once, right? So here's the thing. What I did do was I made a video 3 weeks ago warning everybody about the advent of Omicron and how we must pay attention and take care of ourselves. Last weekend, I made a video about the plight of mentors or instructor operators who have to be outside the booth in order to be able to instruct a student, and the extraordinary risk that is taken when somebody's outside the very partition that we fought for is outside the partition to instruct an operator. As a result of me reporting to my division leadership, right, Donald Yates and Richard Davis, they went to management, and as a matter of fact, brother, we do have COVID cleaning in the depot, the entire depot, locker rooms, penthouse in Manhattanville. We have that. We did get an additional COVID cleaning trick for the swing room that serves Manhattanville operators, and it's supposed to be division wide. We haven't gotten the relief tricks that we did get last year. We haven't gotten those back, right? But that's not off the table. So the reality is, as things progress, because ridership was low, we didn't get the relief point cleaning because ridership was so low in the past week. However, we have gotten and maintained the COVID cleaning for the depot. We have gotten COVID cleaning for the swing rooms, right? Make sure that there's a paid COVID cleaner for every swing room in Division 1. And in addition to that, the COVID relief tricks was an idea that I actually introduced last March or April, because we could not get pull in, pull out schedules, which we thought would be safest. And so I made a suggestion and ran it up the flagpole through my depot, through my chairman, my vice chair, my chairman, and up to my division chairman and Vice President Davis, and ran the idea, well, if we can't do that, given the transmissibility that we're being told it has on surfaces, let's get people to clean the buses at relief points to protect the operators, which we did achieve.
But
and if that becomes necessary again.
I mean, Terrance, it is necessary. We got the most infections than any point that we ever had during COVID. It's necessary right now for us to have that, right? Are they going to wait? Are they going to wait till people start dying again? We talk about being proactive instead of reactive. So what are we waiting for?
You're right. Well, what we're waiting for is a little bit more knowledge. Well, first of all, if the ridership is low, well, let's start first things first. The first thing to do is to protect the mentors. So we've gotten additional PPE for them, and there has been a conversation with upper management about a possible suspension of the training while this Omicron is still running wild through the city. Second of all, if we're going to return to the COVID relief tricks, the science, based upon what I've learned and what I know, is that the main mode of transmission is not through surfaces, but it is through aerosolized air and contact with other people. While I'm not ruling out surfaces, right? At the end of the day, we make sure that the operator has available to them all the disinfecting and cleaning materials that they need upon pullout. Now, if we find out that there is that transmission is not happening through contact, but is happening through touching stuff and then touching your face, and that's the major mode of transmission, then of course we have to have cleaning tricks between each operator. But as it stands and based on what the science is, as far as I know, that is not the main mode of transmission.
So that means
right now we want to focus on.
There's no reason for cleaning tricks then, according to you.
There is cleaning tricks. There's cleaning tricks in our swing rooms.
I'm talking about relief points.
Right now, I don't think that I'm not a scientist, but I haven't heard that Omicron is being transmitted basically by surface to human contact. What I'm being told is that Omicron is being transmitted by human to human contact through breathing, coughing, and so on and so forth. So what we should be doing is moving towards getting a greater level of mask protection. In other words, that making sure that our operators have, instead of surgical masks, which we've dumbed down to, right? We need KN95s. We need maybe for our mentors, if they're going to continue to mentor, and it is strictly voluntary, by the way. It is strictly voluntary. If they're going to continue to mentor, then they need to have a face shield and whatever else we can afford to protect them as they're doing their jobs. Quite frankly, personally, I believe that it should be suspended until we get this thing,
What about the air filtration on buses? I look at buses as being a test tube full of germs, right? It's one big test tube. That's how I look at a bus. One big test tube full of germs. It circulates air. If somebody cough in the back of the bus, it's going to make it to the front of the bus somehow, some way, right? And I believe you guys got air that blows down on you guys, right?
Yes.
Right. So that's forced air. Where is that air coming from? Do you know? Did the MTA explain that?
But so it takes about 7 minutes. First, it's a lot to do with MERV filters and MERV ratings, and it takes about 7 minutes for a bus to recirculate all the air that's in the cabin, right? What we did last year is we started operating with our windows ajar. We started using our booster blower and our defroster because that disperses any pathogen that may be in the air. So
Was
the
that
reality
scientifically
is
proof?
that while it
Was
is
that scientific? Was that scientifically proven, or you guys is making a guesstimation on that?
no, that came straight from the CDC. So any like it's the same as if you're speaking to somebody, you're outside and you have a higher volume of air, a higher
The
mass of air,
CDC been
it
lying
will
this whole. The
disperse. But
CDC been lying this whole. The CDC been lying this whole time. I'm
that's
not
above
taking it.
that's above my pay grade, bro.
It's above your pay
You
grade.
know, if I had a degree in microbiology, then I could contest that. At some point, I have to rely on the information, even if its credibility is shaken. In the absence of anything else, what am I supposed to do? What can anybody
Yeah.
do except rely on the people who we think know a little bit more about this thing than we do? So yeah, I'm not
All
no
right.
big fan of the WHO and the CDC, but based upon what they've been telling us and based upon how their knowledge has evolved on COVID-19, this is the guidance that I have to rely on in order to make sure that the members of Manhattanville Depot, right, are operating as safely as possible.
So look,
That's what I
let's
have to
round
do.
off. Let's round off this interview. Because we let me see how long we've
Okay.
been on here. We've been on here for an hour and a half. This is good though. It's good. This is good stuff right here. It don't
Well,
feel
that's
I'm
because
having we having good conversation.
too.
We having good conversation.
Yeah.
So as you guys see on the screen, this was a TA versus OA thing. Not me because I'm TA, but we talking about within the Mabstoa depots where Terrance feel that TA potential TA reps that want to run TA people who want to run an OA, they must convince him that they are worthy to run an OA because he fears that they will create something and run back to TA. So I'm gonna ask you these last these final questions right here, and I don't need a whole diatribe or
Okay.
narrative or short
All right.
story. I just need one answer. All right.
Okay.
So hold
All
on, let
right.
me get this. All right. So look, check it out. If you had to pick someone for president, Richie Davis, Tony Utano, who would you pick?
I'd pick Richard Davis.
Because he's OA.
Hmm?
Because he's
Because
OA.
not just because he's OA, but because I found him to be a qualified leader that is attentive to the details of the division that he's led.
All right. Who would you pick between Tony Utano and JP Patafio?
I don't know enough about JP Pitafio and his administration to make that kind of a choice. I've met JP. He's personable. I like him. I've met him. I like him. Nice guy. But I'm not aware of his administration and its effectiveness to be able to make a comparison between him and anybody else. I would have to do my
I mean,
homework
I don't
on
know.
it.
I don't know Utano effectiveness either. But this goes back to your point where you say a bus person going to CED. JP is a bus person. Utano is not a bus person. So you'll be
Mm-hmm.
confused about putting someone who
Okay,
at
so
least. Uh,
okay.
Come on, bro. You the master at talking
In
around
the
stuff, man. You are great at that,
no,
bro.
I'm not talking.
You great at that.
But 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 given that you defined the question a little bit more, if I had to make a choice between Patafio and and who's from buses and Utano, who's from MOW, I would choose Patafio.
All right. So basically your concern is that you want someone who represents your interest as a bus operator. At the least.
That's right.
All right.
At the very least, yes.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, I think all of us want that. I would want a president who have who think like that for RTO. Or you know what? I want a president that care for everyone. I want a president that is
I
at
do too.
least militant. Can we agree on that? At least militant,
Yes, we can, brother. Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
At
Absolutely.
the least militant, because we don't have militancy here at the least militant. So look, Terrance,
Yes.
it was a pleasure talking with you. You know, we went back and forth plenty of times on the internet. This is the first time that we did something online. But the next time, I want you to
Mm-hmm.
do an interview from somebody from my team from buses, so you guys can have bus talk. Maybe a TA,
Absolutely.
and yes, maybe Kemp, my boy Alexander Kemp, and
I,
you.
I, I was okay. Okay.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think that because
Absolutely.
I want to sit back. I want to sit back and see the guys talk buses. You know, TA and OA. So hopefully,
Okay.
we could plan that in the future. All right.
No, I would love to do that, brother Kemp. Yeah.
All right. Sounds. So we're playing that sometime in January, top of the year. Because you want to know what? At the end of the day,
All right.
we got to stop this divisive talk, right? We got to start
Right.
focusing on unity and separating ourselves from the people who's trying to do us harm. That's what we need to do. We don't need to create hurdles for people who want to create good change, right? That's what we got to get away from that. And we got to create hurdles for the people who's in there who's not doing nothing for us, and giving them our blind support and our blind votes, because that's what we do when we don't ask them questions, when we don't request nothing from them, when we don't ask them what's their plan, but we continue to vote them in because they are part of a slate, because they've been doing it, and things been eroding in various departments, right? We got to stop with this blind loyalty, stop writing blank checks, and for them to mess it up. We done seen this for decades or a decade, right? We gotta
Mhm.
change the way how we see unionism, because you're a leader in Mabstoa. I'm a leader in TA, right? We got to hold ourselves to a higher standard on who we support and who we co-sign, because the people who look up to us, they gonna be following us blindly because they believe in us. So we got to be harder on
Yeah.
ourselves, and no matter if it ruffles someone's feathers. If you got to go to Utano and say, Utano, what's your plan for OA, and he don't have no plan, it's your responsibility to come back to the members and say, hey, I asked Utano what's his plan for OA, and he had none. Y'all take it as y'all want to
Hmm.
take it. That's what
Right.
us as leaders got to do. This tribalism, we got to get away from that, because the tribalism is
Well,
another word.
can
Tri-
I say,
Tribalism is another word for status quo in this union. That's what it means.
yes.
Tribalism is status quo, right?
And absolutely. And that's standard because I don't think it's a hurdle to have a vision and a plan that you can convey to your membership for what you want going forward. And so I think from the president to the least of the elected reps, or at least that's what others consider me, I'm the number 6, right? From the president to the number 6 in the depot, I think we should all have a plan and a vision for what we want to contribute to this local, not just for our division, but for the local as a whole. And I'm in total agreement with you about a return to militancy. And I'm in total agreement with you about an end to tribalism. Tribalism has not served us.
Yeah, and like we said, the reason why there been lackluster performance in this union is because the people at the top don't inspire us. So when we start giving out these hurdles and throwing hurdles in front of people, we should start at the top and then let it trickle
Yeah.
down.
But I disagree, brother. That's why you're there. You inspire
Nah,
people
nah.
to action. No, 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 no. You have said it yourself. You don't have to be an elected person to do it. It starts in the heart of the member and the person that sees a desire for change. You have been a change element, a change maker. So it starts with us. And maybe what we need is a grassroots movement to motivate those that are higher up the food chain, so to speak, because that is actually how the civil rights movement started.
All right, so we got to get back to that, and you know what?
Yes,
Me and
sir.
you will be doing some talking behind the scenes to figure out how we can
Okay.
maneuver that, because one thing remains true: we are stronger together. I don't want to I don't want to put say someone in TA don't have a good idea for RTO, and or what, and I don't want to think that I don't want to think that. I want to think no divisive. This is the time for us to come together. We have a legit opportunity to do it, and let's do that. let's hold let's be fair all across the board. If we go hold the TA people that want to run an OA accountable, then we go hold the people that's in there accountable too. That's all I'm saying. And
That's right.
I know that listen, you have a voice, and I'm going to encourage you because, like you said, oh Tramel, you're the one who hold them accountable. You're the motivator. I'm gonna motivate you to get out of that status quo type of thinking and come to the dark side.
Okay, I didn't know that I was status quo, brother. But if you see it that way, then yes,
You
motivate me.
stat, you st- yeah, you status quo, bro. You status quo. I got to get you away from that status
All right,
quo.
brother.
Listen, I got to get you away from the status quo, and then we go be good. So, like,
Okay.
look, the next
All right.
interview is gonna be between you and Kemp, sometime probably after their election, or it depends up to him and your schedule. But we'll get it together. I appreciate you for coming on here with me and staying so long, and I'm looking forward to more conversations with you. And we go build from here. TA, Mabstoa,
Okay.
MTA Bus, all of us united. We united moving forward. You hear that, brother?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Let's
yes,
get it.
sir.
Thanks for coming on. Thanks for coming on.
All right, brother. Thank you. Great evening.
All right. All right. Yeah, so that was Terrance Layne, and this is how we got to start. We got to start moving forward together. That's it. No divisiveness. The tribalism of the status quo has to stop. We need a tribalism. If we're gonna be tribal, we need tribal of the real ones getting together. We need tribal of the militant people coming together. The I don't care what team you on, right is right, wrong is wrong. We need tribalism of the right sort, not the tribalism of the status quo, not of the people who are afraid to speak their mind because they may get sent back to their tools, or they may not be in that good old boys club or whatever the case is. We need a new way of thinking. I'm going to bring that forward in 2022. Like I told you guys before, progressive action is about to go to historic levels. Historic levels. Trust me when I tell you, and I can't do it without you guys. And guess what? I don't want to do it without you guys. I want to do this together. There's no sense for us to have any weak links in our chain. No weak links. We're going to do this together. I promise you, 2022, we go continue to call out the frauds. We go continue to call out the people who selling us out. We go continue to call out the management lovers. We going to call them out continuously. But the rest of us, we're going to come together and we're going to kick some behind. That's all I got to say. Happy holidays. Catch you guys later. Share out the video. Donate to the Cash App. $ Progressive Action 100 is pinned in the comments, and hit the what's that, stars, hit the stars. Yeah, we coming together 2022. Only people that need to be worried is the people who've been selling us out, the people who've been management loving, and the people who don't have our best interests. Everyone else, come on board. And I'm gone. Let's get it.